Story 1. I was recently diagnosed with cancer, and I became afraid. I never thought I would be, but now I am. I am mostly afraid of not being able to experience things I want, like marrying my significant other, buying our first home, or going on vacation. I am also afraid of what my death would do to my partner and my parents, and of pain or dying alone in a hospital. I hope I recover and do not have to worry about this for about 50 years. I am still fairly young. Story 2. That's the best way to word this question. Yes, I am. I'm not afraid of being dead, but I'm very afraid of dying. I'm even more afraid of nearly dying and surviving with severe brain damage. Story 3. I think I would just be disappointed. My life has reached a place I enjoy after struggling for a long time. It would be heartbreaking to die after all that hard work. I'm sorry you are feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please contact local emergency services right away. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are outside the United States, please look up your local emergency number or crisis line. If you want to talk more, I am here to listen. Story 4. Not really, but I am afraid of a painful death, so I hope it is painless when it happens. Story 5. My best friend had a near-death experience the other day. The next day we spent time together, and he told me the accident made him realize he is afraid of dying because there is so much he still wants to do. Story 6. Not really. I am more afraid of how I will die. I hope I die at the age of 100 in my bed, not murdered by some bored psychopath. Story 7. I hated my life before. I tried to kill myself and failed. Now I am very afraid because I love my life and the people around me. I don't want that to end. I'm grateful for my survival. Story 8. No. My wife died of leukemia in my arms. I have seen death, and I will not live in fear of it. I am trying to fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. Story 9. It is natural instinct and probably the uncertainty of it all. I know that when you are dead you stop existing and you no longer think, feel, or do anything, but at the same time it seems unreal to me. I will never be able to experience anything from another perspective, so how can my point of view simply cease to exist one day? Logically it will happen, but mentally I cannot wrap my mind around the fact that I will die and there will be nothing, that I will experience nothing else and not even be aware of it. Story 10. I am 31 and have been waiting nearly 10 years to start the life I want. But I cannot because of financial difficulties and depression. I want a good life, and I am afraid I have wasted too much time and that it will be too late to be happy. Story 11. While I am not afraid of death, I would say that I am afraid of dying, mostly because of natural survival instincts. Story 12. I exist because there is somewhere to go afterward. If there is nowhere to go, I would simply stop existing. My thoughts would cease, and I would never do anything again. Story 13. I am okay with the idea of dying. It does not scare me, but I do worry about the impact it would have on my family. I am glad to see others agree. I know many people do not believe me when I say that, so I am happy to read all your thoughts. Thank you for the awards, strangers. Story 14. I seem to be going against the majority here, but yes. What really freaks me out is when I think about what comes next and the possibility of it just being total nothingness and my life being over. Although I will not feel anything or miss anything, similar to before I was born, the thought still really scares me when I think about it a lot. Story 15. One major thing that scares me about dying is the concept of eternity. When you die, you are dead forever, and it scares me not to know how that feels. How does it feel not to be alive forever? I do not know. It is an oxymoron because being dead does not feel like anything. Your capacity to feel is gone. That is probably part of the fear. The uncertainty, not knowing what being dead feels like, really gets to me. I do not like not knowing things. Story 16. Death, no. Dying, yes. I just want it to be instant when it happens. I don't want the trauma, suffering, or sadness. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself, please contact emergency services or a crisis line right now. In the U.S., call 988. If you are elsewhere, Contact your local emergency number or a local crisis service. If you want, I can help find resources or someone to talk to. Story 17. Sometimes I think that when I die, my brain will continue to function and I will be floating in a void with my thoughts for an infinite amount of time. This is, of course, illogical, but I guess I sometimes think about it because my brain cannot fathom a life without itself. I then remind myself that this is fucking stupid, but the idea still pops back into my mind from time to time. Story 18. The only part of dying I'm afraid of is being forgotten. I'm afraid my life will not amount to a legacy. I'm more afraid of the slow decline that seems to affect my family. Dementia on one side and Parkinson's on the other. I might not even remember why I'm shaking, and I would hate for my family to have to watch that. Story 19. I am afraid of leaving my life behind. What if I die young and leave my daughter, my husband, and the life I created? My husband will probably remarry, and my daughter will be too young to remember me. I will not get to see her grow up, and I may not have the chance to have a second child. Since my mother was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, I have developed severe health anxiety. Story 20. I am staying because I do not want my child to grow up without his father. Story 21. I have been afraid of dying since I was a toddler. The idea of no longer existing fills me with a deep, aching hollowness in my chest. It is the loss of everything, and it feels completely inevitable and permanent. This fear is so fundamental that I find it hard to comprehend that some people have never been afraid of it. If you stripped away everything I am as a person piece by piece, it would be one of the last things to go. I also find most people's attitudes toward the deaths of others strange. We tend to feel sorry for the family and for ourselves, but the person who died is simply gone. Their beautiful, complex, feeling brain has shut down, and we are sad because of how that affects us. Also, death is rarely peaceful, so I live with the knowledge that my last precious moments of existence will probably be in agony and fear. That is a fun bonus. Story 22. I think the main reason we fear death is that we do not understand it or what happens afterward. We are not afraid of the dark itself, but of what might be in it. Not knowing is probably one of our greatest fears. This is why almost every religion includes an afterlife to reduce that uncertainty. Story 23. Yes, because I have a great life and I do not want to lose it now. Story 24. It is not dying that troubles me so much as how I die. Being unable to use the bathroom on my own terrifies me. Story 25. I am afraid because I know that all the memories I have made in my life and everyone I have met will disappear from my mind. The thought of being forgotten and of leaving my loved ones behind terrifies me. Story 26. I am not frightened of dying. Any time will do. I do not mind. Why should I be frightened? There is no reason for it, you have to go sometime. Story 27. I am afraid of dying because I believe I have not been good enough. Story 28. I am terrified of dying. It triggers severe panic attacks. I have spent many nights over several weeks trying to understand why I have this fear. I have found no answers, and every time I think about it, I become more frightened. Story 29. I am afraid of dying too soon, especially if we only have one life. I am only 16 and have not yet done things like traveling or meeting someone, so I am afraid of dying. I hope to live to be 80 so I can have done everything I wanted to do. Story 30. I died 3 times during a traumatic brain injury. It was frightening and it hurt. I was bleeding in 2 places in the brain, in the frontal and anterior lobes. My breathing shut down and I panicked. I fought the paramedics. They had to strap me down and intubate me, which was another level of panic for a lifelong asthmatic. They were bagging me and then my heart went into fibrillation. The pain was everywhere, every nerve screaming. They defibrillated me. I have been shocked a number of times as a clumsy electrical engineer, but this was unlike anything I had ever felt. Felt like sucking on a high voltage line. My whole body lit up and my eyes saw sparks. They did it again. I tasted my own blood and copper and smelled fire. Then I blacked out. According to the records, they worked on me for a couple of minutes and restored my heartbeat. They used an automated external defibrillator only, fortunately, because a cracked sternum and fractured ribs from cardiopulmonary resuscitation are awful. The procedure was repeated in the emergency room, then I was flown by helicopter to a level 1 trauma center, and repeated again in the trauma center emergency room. I was in a coma for 4 days, then had surgery and woke up about a day later wondering what had happened. I do not like pain. I have experienced it and I know dying completely will hurt. I fear the pain. What comes after? I have no idea. As far as I know, nothing. But there will not be that level of pain again. All I can say is try not to get concussions or brain injuries when you are a kid. My simple fall on ice probably would not have finished me off if I had not had 9 concussions before I was in my 20s. Wear a helmet. Story 31. I am afraid of dying. Since I do not believe in religion or in reincarnation, the thought of simply not existing ever again scares me. Story 32. Having beaten cancer at age 13, you may develop anxiety and intrusive thoughts about death. Story 33. I'm not afraid of being dead. I'm afraid of the uncertainty surrounding the process of dying. The potential suddenness or prolonged suffering, immense pain or nothingness, saying goodbye to loved ones or not even having the chance, being alone and nobody finding my body for weeks, or having people witness my death. Story 34. I used to be extremely afraid of death. I stayed awake at night because of the thought. Then I realized I had not existed for billions of years before I was born 16 years ago. I did not feel loneliness, pain, or fear, and I was not conscious. I hope there is some form of reincarnation after death, but if there is not, it does not bother me. Story 35. I'm afraid of death. What happens during death? Is it endless darkness? Is it what we imagine as heaven? Is there even an afterlife? Existential crisis. Story 36. I look forward to wandering this world in the hereafter, exploring in death as a spirit what I could not explore in life. I will visit my family's old landmarks, see friends, cause some mischief now and then, and live wherever I please. I will not do so forever. When I have had my fill, I will simply venture into the next life. The path to get there, though, occupies my mind a great deal. How will it happen? Will it hurt? Will I be satisfied with my life and where I have left it? Or will I seek to finish in death what I could not in my previous existence? So many questions, so many sleepless nights, and so many waking moments of disorientation and dissociation. Life ends, death begins, life starts anew. Two things seemingly perpendicular to each other are actually one and the same. Death exists as another form of life, and life exists as an aspect of death. Ending one form of existence to bring forth another, revitalized one. Dear readers, everything is connected, two sides of the same coin, and that is what makes life so interesting and, at times, so dull. Am I afraid of dying? Not so much afraid as curious about how it will be. I have already died twice in my life. During a head operation gone awry when I was a baby, and from drowning in my grandparents' creek when I was a few years old. Death does not surprise me much anymore. If anything, I would greet it as an old friend, for it brings peace to the pain of dying circumstances. I am not afraid. I am expecting and accepting that I will die, and that upon my passing I will be healthier and stronger, unbounded and free to do as I please. If anything, I will be happy once I am dead. My life is not mine for the taking. I will go when the time is right. Story 37. Yes, for now. I want to play part 2 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It seems like a stupid reason, but that makes me want to live another year or two. Are you safe right now? If you are thinking about harming yourself, please contact local emergency services or, if you are in the United States, call or text 988 for immediate help. Consider reaching out to a trusted friend, family member, or a mental health professional. Story 38. I used to not be scared, but now I am, because my sister died at 16 years old 2.5 months ago. I am afraid of dying young because my mother says she is only alive because of me and would not cope without me. Story 39. Yes, I think my fear mostly stems from trying to conceptualize what it feels like to have no consciousness, which obviously is not possible. The idea of ceasing to exist for all eternity just freaks me out. Story 40. No, it seems peaceful. I do not want to live forever because it is torture. Story 41. It is not so much death itself that worries me. It is the uncertainty about whether there is anything after death. Story 42. The way I see it is that each of us has been dead for an infinite amount of time before we were born. We were not scared then, so we should not be scared now. We already know what it is like. There is nothing unknown to be afraid of. What scares me now is the knock-on effect my death would have on those I care about who are still alive. That is my current thought on the matter, although when I die in about 60 years, I will not be here to ponder it. Story 43. Since my life has been mostly unpleasant, I do not see death as the worst thing that could happen to me at this point. Story 44. Dying? No, I suspect it will be like it was before I was born. How will I die? I will be terrified. Story 45. I am in my late 20s and overall I am afraid of death. In the last few years, I completely let go of the religion I once held. I consider myself spiritual, but I do not know what I believe and I have some soul searching to do. Mostly I fear dying because of the unknown. Right now, I have no belief in an afterlife. I struggle with the fact that there is no scientific explanation or concrete information about what happens to us after death. Almost 2 years ago, I lost someone I loved deeply, and it shook me to my core. He was young and full of life. His death was the first I experienced that felt permanent. He was here and then gone, never to return. It is terrifying to compare the pain and permanence of that loss to the inevitable loss of others I love and to the loss of my own life. Story 46. You see, I'm not religious at all, but I do hope there is some kind of heaven and hell, because many bad people get away with being bad their whole lives and should receive punishment after death. The same goes for people who are good their whole lives but never get rewarded. Then I start thinking, where would I go? Where would everyone who has never done anything really bad or really good go? Who decides? A higher being? Us. That is a lot of people to judge. If we decided, some would be judged unfairly, because good people can feel guilty when they should not and bad people may not feel remorse. Thinking of the logistics of heaven and hell makes my head spin, but I keep returning to wanting something that gives people what they deserve after death. Depending on where I am in my thought cycle, sometimes I believe and sometimes I do not. Story 47. I am only afraid of the process of my death, such as being mangled in an accident and suffering intense agony beforehand. Story 48. I am more afraid of how and when I will die. The death itself does not scare me. Story 49. I'm not so afraid of death itself as I am of the many ways it can happen, especially gruesome deaths like burning alive or torture. What scares me most is how easily death can occur during everyday tasks like driving or walking. Story 50. I've seen the other side before. There's not much there to be afraid of. Story 51. When it was just me, I did not wish for it or look forward to it. I did not want to die, but the idea did not scare me much. Now that I have a husband, a son, and a newborn on the way, it terrifies me. The thought that my toddler would grow up without real memories of me terrifies me. It is frightening to imagine my husband going it alone with 2 very small children, relying only on my employer life insurance and our investments, without my steady income to supplement his. It is terrifying to think of leaving my family behind. Story 52. I do not control death. It is uncontrollable and everyone will die anyway. I just want to be happy when I do. I'm sorry you are feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please contact your local emergency services now. Consider reaching out to someone you trust or a mental health professional. If you would like, I can help find crisis hotlines or other support options in your area. Story 53. Nobody really knows what happens afterward. It terrifies me to exist one moment and be gone the next. Story 54. I'm not afraid of dying, but I want to live as long as possible. I enjoy life and know it's short. I don't know what happens afterward, but I imagine death is much like pre-life. I just want to live more. Story 55. I am terrified of dying while my child is young. Once they are grown and have set out into the world, I am less afraid. The thought of leaving them when they are a baby A child, a teenager, or a young adult makes me cry. I can't imagine not being here to support them. Story 56. The thought of nothingness afterward is intimidating. No waking, thinking, or feeling. Only a void of darkness. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.